Would you like to accelerate your learning process? I know I would. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. And recently, my mind was focused upon an article by a gentleman that I seem to just keep reading his articles. I don't know. Name is Thomas Opung. And his article this time was 2 Secrets to Learning Anything Faster, Lessons from Albert Einstein and Richard Feynman. And so I'm always looking to learn things faster, so I looked at it, and lo and behold, it was some of the things that we've already gone over on this channel numerous times, but they're worthy of repeating. And once again, when you hear things from different angles, you know, this connects with one person, that connects with another person. That's the objective. We want to get you to a position where you are understanding and making use of different ways to improve yourself, and certainly being a faster learner is one of the more important ways to do that. You know, now in and I'm quoting from the article here by Thomas Opung, in 1915, after completing a 2-page masterpiece that catapulted him into historical glory, The Theory of General Relativity, Einstein wrote a letter to his 11-year-old son who was learning the piano. I'm very pleased that you find joy with the piano. This and carpentry are, in my opinion, for your age, the best pursuits, better even than school, because those are things which fit a young person such as you very well. Mainly, play the things on the piano which please you, even if the teacher doesn't assign them. That's the way that you learn the most. That when you're doing something with such enjoyment that you don't notice that the time passes. I'm sometimes so wrapped up in my work that I forget about the noon meal. Unquote. That, of course, that once again is Albert Einstein. And, you know, Eli, I've gone over this with you so many different times. You know, you look at me as somebody that was a college basketball player, a high school basketball coach, and you want to learn basketball, and you want me to teach you this and everything else, and I'm very glad to do it. But the most important thing that you can do as far as becoming a better basketball player is to go out and play. You know, is to grab a ball and go down to the park and shoot around, find competition, play people. Yeah, we'll teach you, you know, a nuance here, a nuance there, so on and so forth to improve your game. But the first thing you need to do is to develop a love for the game. And secondly, by just continuous playing, by doing the thing that you love doing, you're learning more and more all the time. That's it. All right? So when you have something that you really want to do, go out and do more of it as often as you can. Now, what about if you have to learn something that you're not so excited? I mean, you don't love doing it. So how do you go about doing that? Well, you focus on something that is going to make you happy when you advance a little bit. So you focus on the progress. That is one of the greatest motivators of all times, is progress. And I just think about this one guy where I was working that wasn't particularly, in my mind, you know, a super overweight person. But a couple of years ago, he started in on this diet, and you could not have any kind of a conversation with him where he wasn't talking about how he did this on the diet, how he did that on the diet, how he fasted for this length of time. I mean, every conversation you had with him was about the diet. And you can't tell me that eating less food is more fun than eating more food. Okay? My own empirical observation tells me that I like to eat food. All right? So eating less food when I want more food is not as much fun. So what is it that makes this person need, you know, the bunny rabbit that goes and goes and goes and goes as far as the diet is concerned? Was he kept track of his progress. I lost this amount of weight. I lost that amount of weight. And he did it all the time. It was like he would do it a couple times during the day, and just keep a chart and keep his progress. So when you're keeping your progress of steps that you're making, that is also a motivator. So when you're doing something you love, it's easy. Go out, do it, try different things in that arena. Don't worry about the details. You'll find somebody to fine-tune you, to coach you, just like we were talking about with basketball. But when you're in a scenario where you're doing something where the end result is what's going to make you happy, not the actual process per se, what you need to do is to focus on progress you're making. And that will help to motivate you to learn faster, to do more, to get more done. Now, what happens is when you start to do something that you really, really, really like doing, and you see that as the ultimate objective, the ultimate objective, you can advance to what we refer to as the flow state. Now you see that, a good example, Eli, that is sometimes guys playing basketball, they get the ball and they're shooting and they can't miss. And they're in the flow state. They're what's called in the zone. All right? The flow state is the zone. All right? So how do you get into the zone? Well, you do it by repetition, by getting a rhythm. You do it by seeing the progress. And the other thing is, get into the flow state with other people that have the same interests that you do. When I was considerably younger and beginning my coaching career as a high school coach, we would get together. I was an assistant coach, and the coaches from the other schools in our league would get together after the games. The games were all played, they played on Tuesday and Friday night. All right, so every Tuesday night and Friday night, we would get together in this watering hole, and they would have a beer, and we talk about the games. And all of the people there were really interested. And you'd be talking about high school kids like they were LeBron James or Steph Curry or Damian Lillard or one of the, you're talking about these kids like they're big professionals. We were all into the flow, into our strategy, talking about you get together with other people that have that same interest. That's another way that you learn, is getting together with people that would get into the flow state the same way that you do. So get into that flow state and learn from it. That's when when different options come out and you make a move and things are just happening correctly, and then you can add them to your resume that will help advance you from point A to point B to point C. And the third way that I want to talk about with you in terms of increasing your learning capability is from Richard Feynman, but also, who was a Nobel Prize winner, but also Albert Einstein said exactly the same thing. And I'm quoting from the article. Known as the great explainer, Richard Feynman was revered for his ability to explain complex and dense topics like quantum physics to virtually anybody in simple and intuitive ways. He won the Nobel Prize for his work in quantum mechanics. Okay, what's the best way to learn? The best way to learn is to teach. If you can take a subject, and Einstein said this, when you can take a subject and explain it so that an 8-year-old can understand the concepts you're trying to get across, then you really understand the subject. If the only way that you can explain it is to be super complex, then you don't really understand it. You have to be able to put things in their simplest language so that it's clear not only to you but to the people you're teaching. And when you're doing that teaching, wow, you, the teacher, will learn more than the student. And how do I know this? Years ago, when I had an office in San Diego and I was part of a part of a big organization and offices all over the country, we had a number of different offices in California. We had one in San Bernardino, we had one in Anaheim, and one in LA. And so the guy that ran the California section of our company would frequently say, why don't you guys switch offices for a day? So Eli's dad, you go to San Bernardino, Devery, you go to Los Angeles, Dan will go to Eli's dad's office in San Diego. So we would all switch offices, and we'd all have a unique lesson. And of course we worked on that lesson because we wanted to be impressive with the people. So when we were talking to them, we would explain it so that it was clear and easy to understand. And frequently the people in my office when I got back would tell me that Dan, as an example, had taught them something that, you know, it was what you taught us, but he taught us from a different angle, and we got a little bit more out of it than what you would say. That's great, that's the idea. But the point is, I always found that when I went and spoke to a different office, that they would ask me questions, and I could see things that were not exactly clear and be able to break them down and explain them into the simplest language possible. And you will find that when you turn what you're learning into teaching material, you will learn it better. Not only that, but the other way to do that is when you learn something is to put it to use right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. One of the things I would do before I would hit the field back in the days when I was selling is I would always be reading different books on motivation, on closes, so on. And frequently, I can't tell you how many times this came up. It came up over and over and over again. When I would learn a new close, when I would read a new close, that scenario would come up that night, and I would use that exact close. And then once you use it and you're successful with it, or use it, you're not successful, but you get to see the progress you made, then you will own it. So learn, use, and own. So let's review the key things to accelerate your learning. Number one, when you're doing something you like, just go out and do it. Explode with it. Work with it. All right? You're playing basketball. You don't need to know every detail. Just get the ball, shoot, run, dribble, play defense. We'll fine-tune you later. All right? That's, one of the things that you definitely have to learn. The other thing is you want to get into your flow state. So when you're in that special zone where things are happening, that is another area where you learn. And you get into that flow state simply by reaching a little bit further than what your grasp permits to achieve something. Just a little bit struggle. It's something you can ultimately see, you can conceive yourself doing, but it's going to take some major effort to do it. Don't make it too difficult. You're not going to jump to the moon, but you can jump and touch the net. Does that make sense? You can see yourself doing it. Get into the flow state. And the third way that you increase your learning is by becoming the teacher. And teaching means making it simple so that an 8-year-old can understand it, and also by performing the action yourself, by doing. So those are the things we want to pass along to you. Once again, I want to thank Thomas Opung for planting this seed with me about learning, something we've gone over many times. And because we will never end our meetings on a philosophical note, we will continue to learn by doing. Let's all get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.